Hi, welcome back. So it's October 10th, by the way. Welcome to the archives. I am still working on warriors, queens, and intellectuals, the great courses. And so we are now moving on to Razia. So Razia rules Muslim India. So now we're getting to the 13th century. So remember, anytime you see a century, how you hear it is different than how it's written down. So when you hear 13th century, it's actually the ones that start with 1200. Okay, it's 100 years below. I had to learn that. I sometimes forget that, but sometimes we forget that 12th century is actually 1100, right? 10th century is 900s. 8th century is the 700s, right? It's a year, the century is a year behind, 100 years behind. So we're in the 13th century, meaning the year 1205. So this is 1205. Razia was born in 1205. She died in 1240. Okay, so this is the year 1205. In 1206, the Turks, the Persians, and the Afghans entered India. So they were Muslim. The Turks, the Afghans, and what did I say? The Persians. Persians being modern day Iran. So the Iranians, the Afghans, and the Turks, Muslims, they entered India and they expanded south. The north at the time was very, very prosperous, and they were the first Muslims to come to India. Um, Razia at 1236, so 1236, Razia was named Sultan. She was the first and only ruler at that time to be a woman. So there had not been any female sultans. No woman had ever been a sultan before. Her father was a sultan and passed it down to her. And so at that time, basically, they were nomadic. The Turkish people, they had settled in Delhi, the Delhi Sultanate. The pagan Turks had converted to Islam. So a lot of the Turks were pagan and they converted to Islam. And Islam usually came through the child. So a child was sold into slavery, and it wasn't like the traditional slavery as we know it. Basically, they were sold to be raised into a better elite force, and in that the children were converted to Muslims, and only non-Muslims could be slaves, right? So they would take a non-Muslim, a pagan, and basically raised them up to be a fighter, and in the process, they were converted to Islam. Okay, so this is where you find the rise in more Turkish people converting to Islam. Um, okay, some became rulers. Some of these same quote unquote slaves became rulers. Others were in like high offices. The first sultan in Delhi is Qatab al-Din Aibak. I don't know if I'm saying that. That was the first Muslim sultan in Delhi. And this is around the 1206 dynasty. The slaves were known as Mamluk dynasty. He ruled what was known as the Mamluk dynasty, which is translates to like the slave dynasty. Um, Also, Iraq and Egypt had similar systems. So Razia's father was Shams al-Din Dinner. I can't read my own writing. Iltum what? Iltumish? I can't read my own writing. I'm so sorry. But basically, again, do your own research, right? Never take anything. Just do your own research, please. Because I could be lying to you. Again, if I'm lying, Joyce is lying. I'm just sharing. Don't shoot the messenger. Okay, so basically, she was the Sultan Shams's daughter, right? Turkas Katus was given to him in marriage. Razia was five of the first sultan. One second. What? Turkish Katus was given to him in marriage. I think she was arranged to be married to somebody. Razia was the fifth. She was five. So she was five, and she was basically set up with somebody. Oh no, she was five when her father died. So Razia was five when the first Sultan died. So she was 5 years old when her father died. And again, Razia was her father's favorite based on the thing. Again, remember, all of them seemed to be their father's favorite. So because Razia was her father's favorite, before he died, he trained her and everything. She knew all of the administration. She knew how to fight. She knew how to go into battle. Basically, he prepared her for. He was grooming essentially his daughter to take over. But she had a brother, right? He taught her to rule. His son, but she had a brother, and so technically it couldn't go to her. But then the son died. I don't remember how it died. It seems a little bit suspicious. I wouldn't be, again, the son died. So the Sultan dies. He has groomed his daughter to take over, but she can't take over because she has a brother so her brother's in charge. Somehow her brother's dies, so now it falls on her because she has no other male siblings. So now Razia is basically named as the Sultan, right? She basically ascends to the throne. His mom served as regent. Both were assassinated. Oh yeah. So her brother was ascended to the throne. It says his mom served as regent. Both of them were assassinated. The brother was assassinated. Um, so yeah. How it ends is Razia now takes over. And in the taking over, she becomes a king, a woman king, essentially. And she dresses for the part. So Razia dresses as like a man would at that time, right? So we have this warrior king who dresses as a man and takes over. It reminds me, there's another story. You hear my belly rumble? Um, so the conservative men at that time were not happy about this, right? They were just like, we don't want to bow down to a woman. Like, why do I have to bow down to a woman? I don't want to bow down to a woman. She's a woman, right? Sexism. So the conservative men were not having it. They objected to her being the Sultan, but she didn't care. Razia didn't care. She was putting herself on coins. They didn't put their pictures, because in Islam they don't do that, but her name was on coins. She was just living her best life. One of the challenges though she had was Islam and Hinduism coexisting. So that was one of the big things that she was dealing with, right? They were completely different. Islam was monotheistic, Hindu was polytheistic, meaning they worship many different gods and goddesses. Um, to Muslims, what the Hindus were doing was like pagan idolatry shit, right? The Muslims are like, why are you worshiping an elephant? What are you doing? That's paganism, right? Muslims don't like that. Same as Christians, right? They don't like it. Hindus are like, F you, we do what we want. This is our religion, and they're colorful, and there's lighting incense, right? They're really on that quote unquote pagan shit. This is how Christians see them. This is why a lot of people don't like Christians and stuff. Don't really like Hindus or Buddhists because they're just like it's pagan stuff. That's witchcraft. And the Hindus are like, we're just over here in our country minding our own business. What are you talking about? Here you come telling me that I worship the devil. So the Hindus weren't having it, right? They were just like, nope, yes, we're gonna bow down to Lakshmi and Shiva and all of our gods and goddesses. Muslims, on the other hand, are more modest, right? There's a separation of men and women, whereas Hindus, they're like people are like there's like images of folks having tantric sex, right? It's very open. The women, the goddesses have like naked breasts are out. There's sexual positions. The Muslims are like, what is going on with these heathens? What is happening? And again, the Hindus are like, free up, first of all. No, what you're not going to do is come tell me how to live my life. And there's nothing sexual about this. This is deep, divine, spiritual stuff. So sorry you can't relate. So then the Hindu Muslim beef gets started, right? Muslims don't eat pork. Um, they primarily eat beef. Well, Hindus don't eat beef because they see the cow as sacred because the cow provides for them. And the Muslims are like, first of all, why are you worshiping a cow? Second of all, eat the cow. And the Hindus are like, do not eat the cow. Please do not eat the cow. The cow is sacred. And so again, the beef starts. People, Muslims are getting killed because Hindus are like, they were killing our cows. No, yeah, yeah. So it's a hot mess. So these are some of the issues that Razia had to deal with was the divide between Islam and Hinduism, right? So Hindu, they revere the cows as sacred and they ate pork. They didn't eat beef. The Muslims ate beef, but not pork. So the Sultan had a really hard time convening the two groups. Um, and so there were Hindus' temples torn down. Minar, um, Awad, Kitib Minar Awad ul Islam. They built an Islamic mosque, which is now a UNESCO site. Razia's father was the one who had it built. It's the oldest mosque in India. Razia's father built it, and it's also a tomb. But you see similar impressions, like the Taj Mahal, for instance. Same thing in Lahore, Pakistan, where Razia's father ruled there. Her father, Razia's grandfather, ruled in Lahore, Pakistan, which was the center of the Muslim culture at that time in Pakistan. Lots of Persians in Lahore. Apparently, there was more people. The thing was like there was more Persians in Lahore, Pakistan, than in Persia. Um, this is where you also see the rise in Urdu. Urdu is Indian and Turkish and Arabic, and so that's what you get the language. People start speaking Urdu. Um, India was producing cotton, so the Sultan was making a lot of money off of cotton trades at that time. Um, because the carpets were used for carpet weaving, which was really big, especially for the Muslims to do and say their prayers on. Um, but also, okay, so what else? Um, Paper construction had also started in India, so I mean, in China. Paper was invented in China, apparently. And so but also um, the Indian Sultan started doing that as well too, and so they were making a lot of money off of that. Um, so they made a lot more pagans convert, even Islam. Oh yeah, so the Muslims were making the pagans convert. They were like trying to convert Hindus into Islam, and then those they saw as quote unquote pagans, they were trying to convert them to Islam. So I found it interesting that Islam is also very afraid of pagans, because I pay attention to what people are afraid of or consider bad and wrong. And paganism gets a lot of slack, but I think it's because it's probably one of the more powerful ones. Because otherwise, why would you care? Why would you care if I'm lighting this incense with this candle? Why does it bother you so much? Huh, perhaps a candle has some power that you don't know about, or you do know about, and you want me to. I just food for thought. Whenever people are afraid of paganism and they see it as witchcraft, I'm always interested. Because I think it shows more about their own fears and who and what they elevate than what they minimize, right? They may say it's beneath them, but I think actuality they know it's above them and they're scared of it. But that's just that's my own opinion. So basically, at this point, Sufism, it talks about we move into Sufism, so we start to see the rise in Sufism, which is a blend of Hindu and Islamic blend together. The Sufis lived alone, the Sufis embodied holiness, and so it says Razia went to battle. Um, she ruled for 4 years before the nobles worked to replace her. So she was ruled for 4 years. Um, She had an Ethiopian lover, apparently, Malik Atuma or something like that. Um, yeah, so they went to battle. Atuna won. So basically, she went to battle with Malik, who was her adversary. So she goes to war with this guy, Malik. She loses to Malik, and Malik spares her, and then decides to marry her. You're like, what? Girl, you just went to, you literally just went to war with this man. Now they're married. You're like, how did you end up getting married? You married him? Because he saved your life. He could have killed you at war. So, um, again, I'm not trying to judge, but it's interesting. These girls are interesting. So basically, yeah, he sent her off to prison. He kept her as a prisoner, but then they got really comfortable. She was really comfortable. She was treated like royalty, basically, even though he was trying to keep her prisoner. It reminds me of Beauty and the Beast. Remember when the Beast kept Belle captive up in the dungeon? That's what this is. Like, it's a real life story. He had her imprisoned, but even though he gave her a comfortable life, and then was like, you know what, I want to marry you myself. So, yeah, basically they got married. Um, Eventually, the both of them were defeated. The Sats, S-A-T-S, the Sats beat them, and the Sats they converted to Islam, and 20% in Punjab region is from people that are apparently Sats, S-A-T-S. So the Sats killed them. That's what happened. Malik and Razia got married, but then they were outsmarted by the Sats, who nobody was like even thought about them on the radar, and the Sats had converted. So Razia's rule was brief, just Hindus and Muslims, and they're basically we see now in modern day um, India that the tension between Islam and Hinduism is still there. There's still tensions between Muslims and Hindus in India right now. It's escalated, but yeah, this is some of the history. So this is the first time Razia was the first female sultan, and her family was also one of the first families to move into India. To rule over the area as Muslim lands, and just talks about her challenges with keeping her constituency, if you will, united because the divide between Muslim and Hindu was really big. So yeah, this is Razia's story. I want to learn more about the Sats because I have never heard of that group, SATS, and they were the ones that basically defeated Razia and Malik's troops. So yeah, they converted to Islam. Anyways, so that's a little bit about Razia, Queen Razia. Warrior Queen was, yeah, because she fought in battle. Okay, so until next time, in solidarity.